found all this out and decided to postpone it for 2 weeks. So hopefully we will still hear about Lughnasadh, but not today. It's going to be a couple of weeks. Now the world is full of calamities, and in the big scheme of things, this is a very small one. Calamities sometimes lead to unexpected delights, and I hope that's what you will find in today's surprise service. Now, since the announcements are correct, I want to draw your attention to the UUFEC Search Committee announcement. On August 25th, we're going to have a special second hour where you have a chance to give your input into how you feel about our fellowship, its strengths, its weaknesses. We have to kind of clean house, update our web page, get everything spit-shined, so new ministerial candidates, when they look at us, will want to come here. It's your chance to give your opinions on where we are and where you'd like to see us go in the future. Jane Park also has an announcement.
Good morning. My name is Jane Park, and with the wonderful Stacy right there, we're co-chairs of your Social Justice Committee. And the Help Us Get Out the Vote is the second announcement here. And what we're doing with that is we're writing postcards all over Florida. And the main thing is that the second Tuesday of the month, that's the second hour. We hang out, we write postcards. And who did it last time? Was it kind of fun? It was fun. It was fun. So you hang out and you write postcards, and you'll get instructions. Meanwhile, if you want to take some home, and it really is kind of fun. If you want to take some home, come. There's a lovely lady with a black shirt. I'm going to be kind of sitting where you are, second hour. Hi, welcome. I'm going to be sort of sitting back there. Any questions you have about the postcard writing, I can send you home with postcards. Or any questions you have, I'll see what I can do to answer them. So thank you. Come visit me back there, and we're going to just try to get out the vote in Florida in a wonderfully UU nonpartisan way.
I also want to draw your attention to the upcoming services. Some of it is still right. Next week, we have a treat. Julian Wynn, who is here today, is going to be speaking. He's the guy who always comes up and tells us about his chickens. He's going to be sharing lessons from chickens. The children will be staying in the service to support their own, so I hope you'll be here. We're looking forward to it. All right. After the service, everyone is invited to stay for coffee, refreshments, and conversation. At 11:15, we begin our second hour, small discussion groups, which last for an hour. Today, we have a group led by Cal Adams in red here, called Who to Help and How, in the Harmony Room around the corner to the right. We'll also have speakers circle up front to discuss today's sermon, which you don't even know what it is yet, but we can discuss it. And now the prelude prepares us for the service. It's called What We Need Is Here, written by Reverend Amy McCreath and sung by Paul Vasso. It has 5 words, what we need is here. And they are the closing sentence of a Wendell Berry poem, The Wild Geese. If you feel the urge, join in. Thank you. Naomi is going to light our chalice. Words are by Vance Bass. Every day brings struggle. Every day brings joy. Every day brings us the opportunity to ease the struggle of another, to be the joy in another's life. May this flame remind us to carry our light to each other and to the world. Please stand as you're able for our opening hymn. It is in the teal hymnal, if you like to follow along that way, number 1020. We've done it a few times. Wo ya ya. Seemed appropriate for today.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah yeah, 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 yeah, oh yeah yeah, yeah, oh yeah yeah, yeah, oh yeah yeah, yeah.
We're getting a little better at that one. It is the time for all ages. Children are welcome to come up to the front. We have a story. Hey, guys. Oh, that changed too. Everything changed. So, one of my favorite words is serendipity. Any guesses what that means? It's such a cool word to say, serendipity. It kind of means coincidence and maybe luck. As it happened on Thursday evening, at the very same time as I got this email from Trudy saying they were all sick and the service was off, I also had in my email box the next recorded sermon from the Unitarian Universalist Association, and it was not only there, but it was a good one, and it was talking about something appropriate today, disasters and calamities and how we deal with them. And then in my real mailbox, I had a new book, which I have no excuse for buying children's books anymore, but I still do. And it actually goes really well with the sermon. So here we are. It is called The Big Orange Splot. I did not take time to scan pictures, however, so in the back, you'll have to use your imagination. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everyone else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. Then one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. That happens to me sometimes. Sometimes they have a fish in their mouth, and sometimes they drop it. And I wonder, how did this get in my pool? Well, this seagull was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can. No one knows why. right over Mr. Plumbean's house. It made a big orange splot on his roof. "Ooh, too bad," everybody said. "Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again." Now, I know we don't usually paint our roofs, but we're going to just let that go. Okay? "I suppose I will," said Mr. Plumbean, but he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange splot for a while, and then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange splot. Someone said, "Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house." "Okay," he said. I'm not going to show you this picture. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it's cooler then. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange splot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same. But Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. Whoa. There was the big orange splot, and there were little orange splots. There were stripes and pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, "Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper." They went away muttering. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. The next day, the people said, "Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped his hawser." I did look up what that is. It's a big rope they used to tie ships up. Yeah. You knew that? I didn't know that. They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between two palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. "Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house?" "My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams." The people went away. They asked the man next door to have a talk with him. "Tell him we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours, so we can have a neat street." The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees, drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Yeah, you know it. Early the next morning, that man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. "What have you done to your house?" And you know what he said? "My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams." He'd always wanted to have a ship. "He is just like Plumbean," they said. "He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle." But then one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm tree and drink lemonade and talk about all their dreams. And you guessed it, the next morning, whoever visited last would be changing his house to fit his dreams. Now we've got a hot air balloon house. Kind of looks like it's from India or Morocco. We've got a castle. We've got the Parthenon from Greece. When Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "You know what? Our street is us, and we are it. Our street is where we like to be, and it looks like all our dreams." Sometimes things that look like they're not going well turn out to be really cool. You know, there's not much on that last page, just like a shadow of his house. Kind of the same thing happened when I was watching the Olympics yesterday. I just have to throw this in. It was the vault where, they run really fast and they jump up high and do all kinds of flips and twirls and land. And sometimes it goes right and sometimes it doesn't. This one particular gymnast, she's in the middle of the air twisting, and she could tell her body was not quite in the right position to finish what she was planning to do. And she had to make a snap decision to change it, and did. And it landed beautifully, and she won a medal, I believe. But sometimes it's like that. What we plan, what we expect to happen, doesn't always happen. And sometimes we have to make a change, and with luck, it comes out still being really good. So enjoy your class. Thank you for listening. I was so happy that book arrived. It was so good. The sharing of joys, milestones. other events in your life, just breathe together in silence. I will start us with a few words by Howard Zinn. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now, as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. After our song of dedication, greeters will take up the offering. If you're paying your pledge with a check today, please make a note in the memo line that it's for your pledge. We also share all cash donations and unmarked checks equally each week with a local charity. For the month of August, our Share the Plate partner is the Okaloosa County branch of the NAACP. The Okaloosa branch is 75 years old and is guided by the national NAACP's goals of eliminating racial disparities in all aspects of life, including social change, economic and environmental justice, and police reform. UUFEC is participating in UU the Vote, which encourages congregations to partner during the election year. The Okaloosa NAACP is also dedicating the next 100 days to our Get Out the Vote campaign. Its many other activities include opposing book banning in schools, advocating for justice in the recent local shooting of Senior Airman Roger Fortson, and having an active advocacy wing. Please be generous. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and by this we live.
Hello, UU family. I'm going to sing a song with you called Shine on Me. It's an amazing spiritual that anybody can sing. And in these days when the things that we're dealing with, the feeling separate and all of that, and things seem so hard, this is one of those songs that you just throw your head back, put it in your medicine kit. All you have to do is ask. And here's how it goes. Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up, yes, lift me up. Let from the lighthouse. Lift me up, oh, hold me close, yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close, yes, hold me close, so hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please hold me close. Oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Oh, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on
Our speaker today, time to reveal the surprise, is Reverend Byron Tyler Coles of the Southern region of the Unitarian Universalist Association Congregational Life Staff. It's called At the Beginning of the World. I think you'll enjoy it.
A reading from the book of Genesis, chapters 1, verses 1 through 4 and 14 through 19, from the New Revised Standard Version. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and shadow covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the shadow. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be the lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars, of course. God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the shadow. And God saw that it was good. God saw that it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning on the fourth day. As we continue onward in the ever unfolding and frankly exhausting journey that is the COVID endemic, coupled with personal and societal happenings of all sorts, what are we to do? What are we to do with ourselves, with our communities, with the very stories we were raised to know as true, but have grown to realize don't fully encompass the truth? What are we to do in these moments of tenderness and calamity, of frustration and joy, in the presence of both the stillness and the hustle and bustle of our lives? When so many things have either changed or need to change, what are we to do? As we live into these all too real questions, I offer this homily entitled Ministry at the Beginning of the World. If you are like me, maybe you can remember the beginning of lockdown and all the feelings that came with it. The anxiety and the loneliness, the anger and the sorrow. It must have been the first full week during lockdown as I recall struggling with my day-to-day routine. On one such morning, I was looking out of my apartment window over Cameron Run, a tributary that feeds into the mighty and murky Potomac River. As I clutched my coffee cup to my chest, I blurted out, "I wasn't ready for this." My then roommate, Julia, sitting just across the living room, looked up from her phone and said, "Ready for what, Tyler?" I gestured to the window and said, "This. I wasn't ready for this. I was ready for the apocalypse, you know, for the doom and gloom, the fire and brimstone, the gnashing of teeth, maybe a zombie or two even. Not for a beautiful spring day." There I was, struggling to make sense of the world as I had come to know it, as it had began to fracture under the pressure of the pandemic and all that it brought with it. In those early weeks and months, I struggled. We struggled. We struggled as our loved ones became sick, as we cared for them and even became sick ourselves. We wrestled with the weight of the world as it played out on the evening news and on social media. We gave it the best we could as we attempted to keep some semblance of normalcy. And as time went on, we began to hear and maybe even utter, and it's okay if you did, how we just wanted things to go back to normal. Back to the way things were before the virus, before social distancing, before masking, before wiping down groceries or fighting over toilet paper, before worrying about air quality and purity, before inflation, and even before figuring out how to make multi-platform school and church work. You know, the before times. But as is our habit, as creatures of habit, when reflecting on the past, we so often do so in dichotomies. That is to say, when we think back on past events, we tend to place them solidly in the camps of either totally good or totally bad, given our experiences of them. And as I think back on those days, months, and years before the arrival of the pandemic, I am left wondering what was so wholly good about them in which we would even want to go back to them. Now, I know and I honor that when we say that we wish to return to the before times, what we are doing is signaling how our hearts are now so very weary, and how we wish we didn't have to concern ourselves with the endemic and the total disruption it is still having on our lives. How many times in those before times, the wars and the genocides, and the rise and fall of the economy, the housing crisis, the endless accounts of mass gun violence and natural disasters, and the list of horridnesses go on and on and on. But as a religious people, as a people who routinely gather to wrestle with truth, both new and old, we are taught time and time again in so many ways that the ending of one thing is the beginning of something else. In the sacred story from Genesis, the first of two creation stories accounted in the text, we hear of the detailed motions in which God herself proceeds to bring creation into being by breathing life over the murky waters and separating them from what would become the earth. It is the creative imagination, the poetic genius of the ancient Israelites as they sought to craft meaning out of the heat and force, the swirling gases and minerals that would become our galaxy. It places humanity not at the center, but as equal participants alongside the heavens and the earth, shadowy waterways and moving airways, and of course a multitude of animals and plants. And with no preface, with no explanation given, the plot line of existence begins in full order. This is what many of us were taught as truth, after all. God creates, full stop. And when said more frankly, God creates from nothing. But when we turn our hearts and attention to the words more closely, what we notice is that God himself did not create the cosmos and everything that exists within it from nothing, But God himself instead crafted existence with what was already on hand, with which already existed, the seemingly separate parts, maybe even the broken parts of the previous creation. Now, there is no question that we each have faced our own endings before, and maybe even some of those endings felt apocalyptic. But unlike what I was prepared for during the earliest moments of lockdown, and have since been reminded, endings can rarely be prepared for. And when they do arrive, they appear in ways different from what we expected them to be. And sometimes these endings and revelations don't come from outside forces, but are self-induced. In Cheers to the End of the World by Elba Morales, Elba writes, sometimes we orchestrate the end of our own worlds. You know, the decision to leave a toxic job, saying yes to trusting a new love, and admitting that we need help. There's blessedness in new beginnings, no matter how difficult they may be or how they come about, beloveds. And as change is the one and only real constant, we must meet these moments with as much heart as we can muster within ourselves and can assemble from those around us. For we can play an intentional role in our own new beginnings. As Dr. Elias Ortega, president of Meadville Lombard Theological School, says, facing apocalypse with courage and faith is understanding that it reveals other possible ways of being, of acting, and living in the world while we still have time. In full truth, who we once were is no more. The world as it used to be has perished. For change is constant in the great river of being. For following life is death, and surely following death is life again. Winter gives way to spring, the setting sun gives way to the full moon, and low tide follows once the water crests upon the shore. The good news in all of this, and there is indeed good news in all of this, is that we are wading through the waters, carving out new pathways and laying down new foundations with old pieces every single day. But we must do so with great intention and imagination, and not just as a tactic for survival. This intentional act of imagination requires that we honor all that has come to pass, to take stock of how previous iterations have shaped us, and then to manifest new ways that honors all of creation going forward. Here then, as Adrienne Marie Brown often says, we must create lives worthy of living. I'm gonna say that again because I think it is important. We must create lives worthy of living. Likewise, I think we must also organize communities worthy of being a part of, as the individual does not live in isolation, but is a single thread woven into the greater tapestry of existence. For it is in these communities, much like the church is tasked with doing, that we become the co-creation lab of existence, creating ways of deep connection and well-being, bonded together in care that can hold us through all the endings and new beginnings, pandemics and apocalypses, twists and turns still to come. As we move through this next chapter, into this new world becoming, we must do so guided by a shared faith anchored in clear and bold values. In my own journey, in my ministry with others, I detect that we have to go forward with 3 guides for our journey ahead, lest we be tempted to fall prey to the ways of the before times. So our first guide is slowing down to start small. As we venture into this new world, let us go slow and move with exacting precision. We have been trained to be and to work at a fever's pace. While capitalism is crumbling, it is not yet dead in this new world. But the spirit of life, I believe, is much stronger. It is beckoning us, begging us really to move different as we are beginning to realize that the God of death, known in the form of free market greed, has an offertory which is far too heavy to bear in these new world. By slowing down, we can begin to build up the life-giving pathways which meet the needs of today in more sustainable ways. No more quick fixes for the sake of convenience. Our second guide, relationships. We have come accustomed to and have even begun to expect that our relationships should be connections of expediency, superficial at least and vapid at most. In this new world, we must, especially as a religious community that proclaims the power and truth that is our interdependence, we must let our relationships be our teacher and our succor. Relationships of deep meaning will challenge us to grow and will serve as our North Star as we strive towards liberation. And our last guide, depth over width. Depth over width. In the before times, we were instructed that we must always build wide, go wide, be wide, all of which whispered, ignore the depths of things. But if the pandemic has shown us anything, such an approach to life, to our relationships, to our communities, to our churches, to our own spiritual journeys, width isn't sustainable, let alone useful when the going gets tough. When we can change the depths of the seas or the heights of the heavens, then we are able to know fully of nuances and of complexity. There we can plant our roots deep in the nourishing earth as it provides sustenance and grounding. There we can send our branches towards the heavens as it provides awe and inspiration. As elders and teachers of our tradition have reminded us throughout the ages, we are all ministers. Hello, colleagues. We are called to collectively carry the load of life together. For doing so makes its burden much lighter. In this new world becoming, following all that has perished, following all that has and is still being lost, we must faithfully meet this apocalyptic moment as courageously as we can. We must meet this moment with what Walter Brueggemann calls a prophetic imagination. That is what we must call to mind, body, and soul, a vision of a new world where mutuality, care, and generosity are central to our very being, and let it give shape to that thing, that holy thing called love. For we can shape the next creation, beloveds. After all, we are God's co-creators. We are God's partners. And as the prophet and sage Grace Lee Boggs once said, we must transform ourselves to transform the world. For truly, truly there is no time better than this to drink deeply of the mystery of transformation. And in so doing, may we prophetically minister to beginning of this new world. May it be so. Ashe, so be it. And amen.
I actually mixed up these two slides, Adam, so if you'll swap them, we are going to do Spirit of Life next. Stand as you are able.
In the sea, no
closing words are by Kendall Gibbons. There is finally only one thing required of us. That is to take life whole, the sunlight and shadows together, to live the life that is given us with courage and humor and truth. We have such a little moment out of the vastness of time for all our wondering and loving. Therefore, let there be no half-heartedness. Rather, let the soul be ardent in its pain, in its yearning, in its praise. Then shall peace enfold our days, and glory shall not fade from our lives. Before we do the postlude, I want to thank, as always, our slideshow team. You know, with these recorded things, without Adam and Joshua, there would not be a service, or it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. So we sure appreciate all their work every week. We have been kind of serious, so we are going to end lighthearted with Modern Unitarian.
He is the very model of a modern Unitarian. He was born Romanian, so don't call him Bulgarian. He's also not from Budapest, Ukraine, or Lithuania. He probably is the coolest thing to come from Transylvania.
I am the very model of a modern Unitarian. I'm here because I've lived so long, I'm now octogenarian. With 50 years attendance, I'm a very senior resident. Although I'm better looking, I am older than the president.
Although he's better looking, he is older than the president. Although he's better looking, he is older than the president. Although he's better looking, he is older than the president.
We're educated, cultivated, liberal, and turning gray.
We all like Shakespeare, opera, ballet, and we all drink Beaujolais.
We're all egalitarian and we're humanitarian. We are the very model of a modern Unitarian. We are the very model of a modern Unitarian. We're ethical, sustainable, and also vegetarian. If you would like to join us, it would not be so regrettable. We have a lot of recipes and some of them are edible.
We are the very model of some modern Unitarians.
Our masters of theology have made us seminarians.
We never preach damnation and we don't have a confessional.
We're open and inclusive, and we're also quite professional.
They're open and inclusive, and they're also quite professional. They're open and inclusive, and they're also quite professional. They're open and inclusive, and they're also quite professional.
We're always looking for new ways to make the world a better place.
The Utah politics ensure we often fall down on our face.
We're all egalitarian, and we're humanitarian. We are the very model of a modern Unitarian.
I am the very model of a modern Unitarian. Devotion to the evidence has made me a contrarian. If you're the optimistic type, believing everything you read, consider that a friend like me is just the very thing you need.
I am the very model of a modern Unitarian. I'm coming out the closet and confessing I'm a thespian. I realize the second line does not rhyme with the rest of it. But being gay in Utah helps you learn to make the best of it. But being gay in Utah helps you learn to make the best of it. But being gay in Utah helps you learn to make the best of it. But being gay in Utah helps you learn to make the best of it. While driving in our Priuses, NPR gives us our news.
Mind your P's and Q's, for some of us are LGBTQs. LGBTQs. Some of us are homosexuals.
We're all egalitarian, we're humanitarian. We are the very model of a modern Unitarian.
Thank you for coming. Please join us for refreshments and conversation in the back, and stay for second hour if you're able. Thank you.